Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of For the Record India. Today, we'll be continuing with part two of a conversation with May. I hope you enjoyed the conversation from last week. It'll be a continuation today. So, let's get on to it. Have a nice time.
I mean, does your radio has your like it's evident that your radio background has helped you. But now, like since you're from radio, I had this really, typical question like, does indie music have space in our radio on our radio today? Do you feel that way?
So the thing is, it's like understanding the industry of radio. I wish that we could play independent music on mainstream radio, right? And I think there's a lot wrong with like even going down to the basics of like the IPRS and like collecting royalties for artists. And it's not easy for independent artists unless you're with a label or something.
Yeah.
And not enough radio stations are playing independent music.
Yeah.
And if they are playing independent music, it's usually relegated to some odd hour in the night.
Yeah, it's in the night.
Morning.
Yeah.
Or it's an online station. It's not an FM station. So it'll be like an online version of that station. So my thing is that the reason why they do this, and this is just testament of the fact that radio in India is kind of hard. It's very, very, very expensive to run a radio station. So, so let me like give you like a sort of a nutshell explanation of like how expensive radio is. But usually when you buy like a radio license, it's usually a license from years, and you have 4 or 5, and the radio licenses like for a frequency are sold in like an auction. So different media companies can bid for it, and the government basically licenses a frequency to you, which is either FM or AM or whatever. And an example of this is that I think HD Media 6-7 years ago bought a frequency in Delhi for like 150 crore. Like that's how much just the license costs, right? It's a radio license. Yeah. Then you have to rent the tower that you're using to broadcast. So there is like in Bombay, most radio stations are either in Lower Parel or they're in Andheri. And the I've seen the tower. So there's like, it's a Doordarshan like DD tower or AIR tower or whatever it is. And there are a bunch like, I think Red FM, Mirchi, Radio 1, they all broadcast from the same tower. And it's somewhere in Lower Parel basically. So there is like, so you you broadcast from that tower. And then obviously you have all your capital and overheads, right? You have to pay for a studio, you have staff, RJs, all these things. And then of course, the biggest thing to pay for, radio licensing. And not licensing, but music licensing.
Yeah.
So you have to pay, so your T-Series and your Saregama and your Sony and Warner and all that. You have to pay for music to have it. So like we would like, for example, every month there would be like a sheet that would get filled up because there's like a program that basically plays out music. And from that program on an Excel sheet, literally every song was played on the radio. It's put on an Excel sheet, how many minutes of it was played, that gets sent to the accounts department, and the accounts department pays the music royalties, the music licensing. So it's like, it's very expensive. That's why like if you think Bombay, like a population of 26 million people in the city, and like 9 stations, 8 of them are Bollywood, 1 is English. There's no genre-based radio. There's no like folk station in MP. There's no like some, acoustic station in like Nagaland, like because it's so expensive. And obviously community radio licensing is very different. By the way, I know this information only because like I did a lot of research because I was really curious about the radio industry here in India because I found it so odd that you wouldn't play independent music. But it's because it wouldn't make them enough money. to run an indie radio station.
That explains
mean,
the bunch of advertising that happens on radio.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, because
it
I make
does.
some money.
Yeah,
They do
it's like an
on-ground
hour-long show has
events. They do like
30 minutes of advertising. An hour-long show has 30 minutes of advertising. That's like every 2 songs you get like 4 ads on radio.
Yeah, and then not even ads. You have like what they call RJ mentions. So I'd be like, and today I've just like colored my hair because of L'Oreal, something like that. So it's so you would have host mentions. You'd have like, and I was really lucky because I got a chance to do the request show in the afternoon. So I didn't have an afternoon show. Was not necessarily peak time, but it was great because like I love doing a request show. I got to interact with so many people, and it was during the morning and the evening show, which is peak time hours, where you'd have the most number of ads. So I was really lucky that I got probably lesser ads than usual because I wasn't at peak time. But that just means I had a little more fun.
So RJs record, ads among them, like you and me having a conversation, like, "Hey, do you want to buy a property? Yeah, I know something that's really economical." Does that happen?
Sometimes, like we would do, I mean, we've done a lot of voice. I mean, your voice, the station pretty much hires you in your voice, right? So we would have to do like ads and stuff like that for the station. So because obviously it's so much cheaper if you're just using your in-house talent. And so I was working with Rishi K and Erica, so they would just be like, hey, can you just do this like read or whatever it is? And it'd be like something on the lines of like brand new cocktails at Hard Rock Cafe. Go check it out on Thursday.
That's pretty good.
I mean, it does so familiar. Such a
It does seem to be quite a deprecated system, though. I think this entire thing, the radio frequencies being so expensive, people just wanting to play what's actually popular, adds to the inaccessibility of the entire scene. That's why you think many people aren't even really aware.
No, so right now, if you think about radio, I mean, all radio stations basically the radio stations are basically owned by the biggest companies with the deepest pocket. And that's it. Like, you can't own a radio station. I mean, you could run like a community station if you wanted to. Like, I think Bandra had like a community radio station called Jago at one point. There are places, then colleges have little, like, technically community radio stations. So you can, like, there's different like licensing formats, but community radio stations are different because you have a cap on how much profit you can make. So technically you can't like run ads on a community radio station. You basically can't make you can only make a certain amount of money at a community. So there are a lot of restrictions. My thing is that the thing that bugs me, yes, it's super expensive, but the thing that I find even more ridiculous is that, and this is how archaic it is, you can't broadcast news on a private radio station. So that's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. And that's like going back to like the times that the British had. So it's like really old, and it only comes from the space that the impact of radio. And I think it comes from a level of like authenticity and trust that if someone heard on the radio that we were going to war or something like that, you'd probably believe that over a news channel. Because there is like a level of believability in radio, and that's what they felt like, that if you made an announcement, if you did something on the radio, it would have the power to travel. And so I think that was the thing with radio. And till date, the only people that can broadcast news on the radio is AIR. No one else can.
Right.
Damn. This was like a great crash course into understanding
radio history of
radio
India.
history, yes. From the
history,
OG.
I don't know, but just perspective.
But like, so you lived in the UK for 6 years, right? So how was the experience there, considering the music culture in UK?
Yeah, it was amazing. There were, so obviously, like, as you would, the bands that you grew up with in college are so different from, you know, what you liked in school or whatever. So I was really into, I would discover the most amazing thing. I'd borrow like all my friends like CDs, at the times when you had CDs, and just like put it all on my iTunes. And I was so music obsessed, and I've had a chance to see, and this is what was insane, because I was so into the Goo Goo Dolls when I was in school, and they were coming and playing at like a student union, like Cardiff or something. So like I traveled and spent 25 pounds, which was nothing, to go see like a Goo Goo Dolls gig. And I'm like, oh my God, the Goo Goo Dolls gig. And it was just, yeah. And I just had the most fun and saw the most random bands. Like I didn't even go, I never did Glastonbury. I never did like the big festivals, because I was just like not really sure of like doing something so massive. And I don't think I could afford it. I was like, I didn't have that much money. And I would just, I've seen Snow Patrol, I've seen the Goo Goo Dolls, a friend of mine invited me to see Funeral for a Friend, if you guys know that band. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the live experience, the music experience there. It was just like really different. And yeah, really fun.
Sorry for my act of disappearance.
Yeah, what happened?
Network
issues.
Yeah.
So so we just wanted to understand the financial aspect of running a podcast. So did you like start immediately earning through the podcast, or did you take time to sort of build an ecosystem where you could like sort of have a financial streamline?
So honestly, I wasn't even the one that proposed to make a podcast, right? Like I was being paid to actually run to do Maed in India by a company called IBM. And then I ended up working with them as their creative director, which was fun. And then, so they were investing in the show initially. And then about a year or maybe a few months into like us, working on the show, Jio Savan, at the time, they were just Savan. They licensed the show from us. So we were earning a little bit of money because they were one of the first companies to actually invest in original audio content. And my show was pretty unique. So that's how we got a chance to do gigs, because Saban were really investing in the show. But that lasted for a couple of years. And then I eventually took my show independently. And then I was investing in my own show and sort of building what I was doing with it, because I had like a lot of ambitions. I wanted to do video stuff. I started like a merch store. Like I did all kinds of weird things. And I really had like a lot of different things I wanted to do with Maed in India. And it did take some time. And a lot of like the money that I would earn wasn't just because of like Maed in India alone. It was also because of like me and the sort of relationships and trust that I had built within this space. And so it's a little bit of me and Maed in India together. And so, And because I have like this relationship with musicians and artists, like a lot of companies want to sort of explore that. So, So people think it's so funny because people just expect to like earn money like that from a podcast, and I'm like, this is still a growing industry.
Yeah.
And I had like a friend of mine that I'm working with on some stuff, and he was just like, I had like a YouTuber who was like, okay, so I want to make a podcast. How soon can I earn some money? And he was like, well, how soon did you earn money when you got on YouTube? He was like, no, that took me some time. So it's the same thing, right? And so I think that what's most important is like building your audience and building the community and strengthening those relationships that you have. And once you're building a lot of that out, you have to build the numbers on your show. You have to you can't assume if you have like 100 people listening to your show that like money is just going to come flooding in to you. And so the whole idea is that you need to keep building your show, keep promoting it, finding ways of like refreshing your content and doing different kinds of things and engaging with your audience and like having a little fun with it. And and then as you keep doing that, like it's also about approaching different people to do different things. Like, and again, it's about how you build out what you're doing. So like I'm not sure how that would be for us because I'm not in the space of like, I'm not like a sales and marketing expert. Please don't think that I am at all. I have been like very fortunate and very lucky that like I have like a sort of name in this space. So I've been able to work with different people and earn money from it and have a company that I'm running. So
yeah. I mean, that's like a lot of podcasts have come up, like lockdown gave rise to Clubhouse, and we met so many people who were just starting podcasts about Indian music. And it's on one hand, it is great to see that there's this movement that started. I don't know if it's a movement, but I think people are taking initiative at least. But then there's this other aspect, like because there's no money, I don't know how long people will sustain, how long people will stay in it. From that perspective.
Yeah,
So,
I think there's people, they look at the likes of like Joe Rogan, be like, he earned money. Joe Rogan has been in it for freaking decades, dude.
yeah,
He hasn't got here like yesterday, like overnight, like he just turned up, and he's been doing this for the longest time. He's been doing it longer than anyone.
Yeah.
And he
he's
was
not
like,
just
he was a
podcaster,
comedian,
right?
he was.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
Yeah.
was getting at. He's a commentator, he's a comedian, and he does a lot of stuff. So,
And not
yeah,
saying that like Rogan's like kind of show is the most successful show, because like doing a straight up interview show is not a thing. Like I'm also someone that like, want to explore different kinds of formats and do different kinds of things and have subject matter that no one else is doing. So my thing is always like, what are you doing differently that no one else is doing? So if you are making an interview show, don't like, I've had people who are like, I want to interview interesting people doing interesting things. That is, Oprah also did that. So it's about like, what is making your show even remotely unique? And honestly, like, I'll give you an example. Like, we're working on a show with like Tata's, and it's called Leadercraft, right? And there's so many entrepreneurship, leadership podcasts. And when they had asked us to produce it, I realized the one thing that stood them out, that made them different from other shows, is that whoever that they were interviewing, they were looking for their one like philosophy, like the philosophy they live their life by, right? Whether it's like, the CEO of Tata Chemical talking about treading lightly. As someone who like Tata Chemical and treading lightly, like it's this whole environmentalism, like you see this, and it's so, they had Bachendri Pal, who was like the first Indian woman to scale like Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And her and she was such an incredible woman. And her philosophy was like, climb every mountain. Like that was it. So it's like that simple. I don't want to talk about your whole life journey. I have like one thing that I want to understand from you. So my thing is that I think specificity is key to making a podcast that is different from whatever is happening. Because there's millions of podcasts. Like if you're saying that like so many indie podcasts, like to think that I'm still the only person doing what I'm doing for the last 6 years, tell me which other podcast is doing the same thing I'm doing. Literally no one.
No one.
Why? You can't go to a studio and record an artist? The thing that is also like really important even in this space, and I think is really important, and my partner Sean and I really value this, is that we really are extremely respectful of artists' rights and their music and valuing like what we're doing. We don't just play a song because we can. We ask their permission. We make sure that like, all these things of making sure you put like some sort of formality into place, because it's unbelievable how much people take advantage of like artists, and they have no idea, what, like, they're like, yeah, cool, take my song. And that MP3 file is like, how much money has gone into making that file, into mastering it, recording it, like mixing it, like there's a lot. And it's not like it happened overnight. They spent years doing it. As I was saying earlier, like I feel so privileged and I'm so lucky that, this really precious like MP3 or wave file that I get from an artist that they spend so much that, you know, of their themselves and their money and their investment and their time and everything has been put in this little file that they give to you, and you have to respect, and that's something that's also very important to us, which is why we have like good relationships with artists, because we really respect them and their music, and we're not here to take it from them, and we're not here to, we're just like, hey, we're so lucky that we can just talk about your music and put it here. And yeah, I think that's how we kind of feel about it. And I think that's where we're also at in this space. Like, I might not be the most popular person, like everything nowadays, and this also bothers me so much, because your worth is based on how many numbers you have on social media. And that bothers me a lot, because I don't think that I should be like, my value should be based on that. My value should be based on what I do and who I am and what I'm able to bring to the table. And it's just like, well, so what are your social media numbers? What can you give us? And I'm like, it's so frustrating to me that that's how we value people now. And I don't know. It's a tough one, but yeah. Because again, like, even if you look at all the podcasts in the world, it's not like I'm the most popular person in general. I'm just, people know me, but it's like, yeah.
But that's just the drawback of having too many fish in the sea, right? I mean, it's like you form a community, but then it all gets reduced to numbers. When from a commercial point of view, that's what people look at. That's the side. But let me play a Uno reverse card on you. Is this the philosophy you live by? Philosophy, the artist philosophy, like respecting their work, and has that led to where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been like that, in the sense of like, I mean, I just genuinely feel lucky to be in a studio watching someone play music on my show. I mean, it's a true privilege. And a lot of people don't value that. And also, a lot of people don't value what you're giving people, right? And I think one of the things that I've been really lucky to do, and I've realized that, especially when I did my ladies special this year, is that, you know, I had a rapper that did, you know, who talked about sustainability. I had like a spoken word artist that talked about identity politics, and there was this, you know, this incredible R&B trio who talked about, you know, the judgmental gaze of other women, you know, and it was just, you know, it's having this opportunity to be able to also express yourself the way that you want to. And I think a lot of artists don't always get that, because we're also living in a country that has very complicated politics at this time. And I'm always like, I'm going to keep beating that drum on a podcast till they like me. So what can you do? And I think if everything is getting censored from film to TV shows, like, you also have to be in a space where you're, I mean, maybe it's a good thing that I'm a little too indie for my own good, but maybe it's okay that I'm not that popular.
Yeah, I mean, that is just something I think we have to live with for a few years now. Censorship regarding anything that's not according to the so-called norms. It's the sad part of it, but yeah, we got to live with it. And yeah, anyway, and it doesn't, like, you know, you don't know when it will get to you, no matter how big or small you are. It might just happen one day and you wake up with all this hate coming towards you, or all this, you know, people calling you out for, you know, something you might have said in not in the context that they took it in. Because it happened, you know, like recently something happened with a rapper in Delhi, MC Code, if you are aware. He went missing because he received a lot of death threats for something he said 5 years ago when he was a teenager in a rap battle. But it came back to haunt him today. And then he was just, you know, it was a lot of hell for him personally. So yeah, you never know when.
Yeah, and I also think that, like, and it's not even just MC Code. I think it's it's comedians, it's like a lot of people, and it's not even just in India. People are being sort of pulled up for bad things that they've said. And I think that if you have said something that is offensive and your taste at a time that maybe you didn't realize it, I think it's okay that you can apologize for what you've said, or that you can tell people, I'm not that person. I was young. I was stupid. Like I think it's Abish Matthew put, like, the first pinned tweet was an apology. And I think apologizing and saying that you will do better, I think also has value, instead of just, you know, playing some kind of victim. Don't like, you know, I don't think that works. You should just be upfront. If you said something, you read it now and you realize, oh, I said something that was very mean about someone or a group of people or a community. And I think you should be able to, like, we all make mistakes, man. We're not perfect, but learning from them is what's most important. So yeah, you get pulled up for something. Yeah, I need to figure it out. It's tough. Yeah,
it's just a tricky space because, you know, it's very difficult to satisfy people with your apology.
Yeah, you're not gonna. Oh my God, you're not gonna please everyone. No, you're so right. You will not, and you will get that hate for a while. But my thing is, like, don't not apologize and don't just be like, okay, I'm just going to leave.
And not be cocky.
Because I mean, it's also like, you know, put the apology. You might not please everyone, but at least, like, because I think Kevin Hart.
Exactly. That's what I was going.
Pulled up
Oscar during when he was
said.
chosen as a host for Oscar. Some receipts.
So he said that this is not the first time I got pulled up for the same thing. He's like,
exactly.
I apologize. Like, what, every 3 years you're going to bring this up for me to apologize? And that's fair. So if you have apologized, or you have said sorry, you have, like, I think yes. But I think everyone's going through different cycles of this, and for different reasons.
Exactly. When someone like Kevin Hart isn't immune to something like of that sort, like,
I don't think anyone.
No one's safe. No one's safe. Unless you're with people who are taking offense.
I was gonna say, unless you're Tarun Tejpal, and then you're fucking immune to, like, everything. You're immune to the fucking law.
Or you're Kunal Kamra when you don't care. You just don't care. I like that attitude as well. Yeah, but I mean, where are you heading now? Like, where is May heading with her podcast, with her production company, with
her consultancy?
Back into the studio. I am so tired. I genuinely have ear fatigue from online. Nothing against you guys. Like, I haven't been doing online recordings either. But I am so tired of, like, bad quality audio. I miss studio recordings so much. You know, just listen to nice audio. Like, I feel bad for my audio editors, and I feel bad because, like, I think they spend half their time cleaning audio. Mixing everything. And so it's my thing is that going back to studio audio is just what I can't wait to, like, give, you know, my ears some much needed TLC after 1 year of online recording. That's what I'm excited about. Like now everyone's like, listen to it online, no? And I'm like, are you listening to your own show? That's like garbage. Man. I think
for us, this is highest quality, but
at this point,
that's what we lived with. But we understand, like, for someone who's been, like, in studio for years, this must be difficult. And no matter how much you try, whatever equipment you have, it's
and you also don't realize that people can't listen to this kind of audio for a long period of time. Like, after some time, people just want to drop off and not listen to your show anymore. And why? Because it's hard. Like, I can't make out what people are saying, and I can hear a fan, and, like, I can. And so at the end of the day, you also have to realize that like you have to respect people's like ears. You're not gonna like they'll listen to you to a certain extent. After some time, they're like, I don't listen. Go and it's so fast. Like anyone can just like switch off a podcast and just move to that, playlist of like music. Why would they listen to me?
At the end of this, I'm going to go into that introspective phase which I was in during the lockdown.
All of us.
What am I doing with my life? And audio quality.
It's hard. Like, and I have worked really, really hard to, and it's not just me. I'm really lucky that I surround myself with good sound designers and good audio engineers, that I'm constantly working with them to figure out ways in which we can work with guests and hosts, like from all over, like, because we're interviewing people from all over the world, right? And so I'm always in this space where like, okay, how can we do this where we're doing this better? Can we record like this? And can we do it like that? And like, how can I change my protocols and my guidelines and my this and that? So I'm constantly like, finding better and better ways to do this, so yeah.
Yeah. For us, it's just about making content for now. Like, getting as many. For us, it's about starting out. I mean, but yeah, you've put us into an introspective phase.
We will consider this too now.
Yes.
The audio quality.
What? Making sure that the I mean, that's the only thing you have to do, man. Like, my thing is like, if you're doing video, it's like angle and camera and lighting and a million other things. With audio, what is there? It's like, to make sure it sounds good, bro. You don't have to check like the white balance and this and that. I was like, and I'm not even a video person. So I only deal with audio. I was like, if I only have one responsibility is to make sure that I make this show sound good, then I'm gonna do my best to do that only. So that's my only job. Make sure that it sounds good, man.
Yeah, hopefully we'll reach that stage of privilege someday.
Someday.
Yeah, but what do you have like? What is the advice you'd like to give for up and coming podcasters like us?
One piece.
So the first thing that I have to be very honest and say is that and again, nothing against you guys. Please don't take this to heart.
Yeah.
We're just very thrilled to have you. So anything.
This is the point.
This is the point.
I want to tell people that a rambly conversation just a podcast not make. So even if you're doing an interview show, and I do an interview show, it's heavily edited. I cut out so much in my interview. I try my best, even though it sounds like a very natural conversation, you can't even tell what I've cut out because it sounds so smooth, right? But I cut out a lot. For an hour-long conversation, I'm cutting it down to like 40 minutes, 20 minutes gone. So for me, I really, really, really do cut down.
So my first advice would be that editing is your best friend. Please listen to your show and please edit it. And if there is a point where you feel like you're dropping off in the conversation, then cut it out. Don't think that and I've had people who, I've been like a host for most of my life. So it's not like I don't make mistakes. It's not like I don't have filler words. I use like all the time. I'm terrible. It's not like I'm some consummate host. But one of the things that I think you have to make sure, because being someone who's a decent host, I script everything. Everything that I do, with the questions, I have papers and I script all of it because it's so important. And you can script for your own voice. I know people who I'm so amazing, and they're not even pro hosts. They're just I'm really amazing. We're just extempore it, I just the words come to me okay. And there are very people that I really respect, who have the ability to be phenomenally articulate when they speak. And it is very rare, and usually they're prepared or whatever it is, or even if they're not, they've just trained themselves to do that. And it's not like you can't.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah. So my advice is like, please edit what you're doing and don't just like leave it like that, clean up a little bit and put it out. Listen to it like an audio experience. Is this person going to drop off? Is there any part of this is boring? Do I feel like this bit is like not worth it? Like I told you about that. I had an interview that I had done with like this incredible Nepali artist Divas. There's a part in it where him and I are talking about being in boarding school, because he was in a boarding school in Nepal and I was in a boarding school. That bit was really nice for the two of us. And like I took out that whole chunk out because like no one else like not really get it. So there were two bits in the interview where we talked about boarding school. One was in the beginning where him and I were talking about how beautiful his boarding school is, and we found an image of it, and he said that he was, I was really lucky I could stay in boarding school because my mom was a teacher, and I'm like, oh, you're one of those guys. And then that was funny and that was sweet. But there was another bit where we were fully talking about boarding school for literally like 5 minutes. And it was just like, I mean, it's great. It was a fun conversation. I enjoy talking about that. Doesn't mean someone's going to enjoy listening to it. So you have to like really listen to it as someone who's like sitting outside. Like, will they enjoy this? So yeah, so I think you have to really look at your content and really, I guess, be brutal with yourself. Like try not, it's like you have to take yourself out of the show and not be self-indulgent. And, I've enjoyed great conversations that I've had, but as a listening thing, I've had to be really brutal with myself and just take stuff out. And, and so I think that's it. And I think, like I said, editing and just like making sure
like, how did you, identify your audience in that sense? Like, did you just start making content for everyone, or did you know beforehand what your audience was and who you were catering your content to? Or did you just try to keep it as general?
I know who's my audience. So this is like a very marketing question, right? Like, who are you catering this to? I'm like,
I am a marketing guy.
Podcast everywhere. I want everyone to listen to it. Bloody my mother's listening to it. Our mother's everyone's listening to it. So when I'm putting something out there, I'm not necessarily thinking like, who is my audience? Who am I talking to? I look at it as like one person. I'm like, I'm talking to Rajiv in Thane, who sometimes goes to pop dates and likes to go to see that one band in that one place. Like that's the guy that I'm talking to. Or I'm talking to that girl who is like secretly like learning, teaching herself guitar in her room and playing around with like Audacity, and she's like making beats on like GarageBand. Like that's the girl I'm talking to. Like I don't know, you can't like I don't, and I get it's very much the radio in me. It's like you're not talking to an audience, you're talking to one person, and you're talking to them as though you're talking, because like audio is an incredibly intimate personal medium. Like you're literally in someone's ear, right? They're listening to you and they're like, oh my God, Maed's talking to me? That's how it is. So you're talking to that one person. You're telling them like, man, I gotta tell you something. The world's a bit weird. Like I'm literally like that. That's how I talk to people. I'm talking to them as though like they're my buddies. And that's how I am. So when you're talking about like who is the audience you're speaking to, that's like super like marketing speak, right? Then I can tell you that my audience is between like 17 to like 35-year-old, most of them in urban areas of like India. I also have like an Indian diaspora audience, and I can use literally talking to them.
A marketer in me is satisfied. I'm actually a marketing student, so that's
could tell it from a mile away, man.
Yeah, unless I hear some numbers or some fancy words, Nah, the marketer won't sleep peacefully.
Yeah, but like May, thanks for taking the time out to talk to us. We were so excited when we got to know that you're coming on the show. The conversation was insightful, and we'll definitely take care of our audio and the way we go about things and our goals as to how we can build this. You've been a major inspiration in starting this out.
Yeah. Thank you, mate, so much. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.